Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do is just kind of review what the checklist functionality is. Checklists are really just an extension of the PM task functionality, and they are just a predefined list of tasks um, that can be created based on a template. The templates then define what the tasks are to be done and the time frame when the tasks are supposed to be completed. So let's just start with seeing what it looks like to create a new checklist to be completed. When you have the checklist functionality, you have a new menu item called checklists. And when you go into that menu item, the initial thing that you see is a list of your active checklists. So when we look at a list of active checklists, we see the name of the checklist, the type of the checklist that it is, when the checklist was started, the next due date for a task in the checklist, and the percentage complete. So creating a new checklist is as simple as just clicking the new checklist button. And when you see the pop-up, all you provide is a name for the new checklist. And then you select a template to create it from. So here we have a selection of templates, some operational and some training. We'll try a training checklist for today. Select the management checklist, click create. The system creates a new checklist record for us, lets us know that it's done, and then we have a new entry on our list to be completed. So interacting with the checklist is also very simple and probably pretty intuitive for people that have been using our system. You just select the checklist you want, go to open checklist, and you're presented with all the items on that checklist to be completed. The important thing about this is that the checklist items are actually organized first by the date that they're due based on the date that the checklist was completed, and then alphabetically. So we have here on this two different checklist time frames, items that are due immediately, and then items that are due 1 week after the checklist is created. So as we go through, we can check off items. We can complete items with note. And we can just go on down the list. And as we're doing that, we are completing the checklist percentage. If we go back to our active checklist list, you can see that our Chris's new checklist is now 62.5% done. And in fact, the next task is not due until 9/16. So this checklist is done for right now. And if we go over to our list of do now checklists, this is a different view that shows only checklists that have items on them that are actually due as of today. So we see we only have one checklist with any items that are due now. That's John's management checklist. So we could open that checklist up and see that, oh yes, he's got more items that are due today, as noted in the checklist. And we could go ahead and start completing those. And as those are completed, it will fall off the do now list, and we'll see that we have nothing to do. We are complete. So that's interacting with the checklist and creating a new one. The next step would be showing you how to configure your own checklist. So this happens in the setup area, again with a new menu item called checklist templates. So checklist templates exist within checklist categories, just the way that equipment exists within equipment categories. Right now we have three categories: operational, other, and training. I think you guys will be using mostly training, so we'll go ahead and just dive into there. So the first step to creating a new checklist template is to give it a name. So let's say we'll do maintenance training. And we'll click our little plus sign. Our checklist is created. And now we have a new template to fill with tasks. So just as we created the checklist with a name, the first thing you do to add a task is just add some text. I'm not being very creative with my descriptive text here. And then you click your plus sign. And you fill in just the details of this task. So this task, let's say we want this to be due immediately after the checklist creation, you have a lot of different options there. So it can be due immediately, it can be due a day after the checklist is created, a week, 2 weeks, selections of months, even up to a year, year and a half, 2 years. So we can talk about adding additional items in there for individual days, but that's our starting point. You can also add the expected time that you think that this checklist item will take, the cost that you think it might take, if this is something that is actually going to be fee-based or that you have some costs associated with. And of course, importantly, you can also add task instructions. So just like with the equipment-based PM tasks. So we save our task saved. Now we can go back to our checklist and we can see that we've got a brand new item on there, and we would just add other items in the same way. Add that, say we want this to be due a week after the checklist creation, save it. So once you create your template, you can easily see that, or you can easily go back to a checklist item, and we can see in our new checklist view that we've got a brand new maintenance training checklist item. Create that. And we see that we've got a new checklist to be created as well. And if we go back to our do list, we should see that, yep, sure enough, we have an item to be completed on this checklist. So really that's the beginnings of the functionality there, and how you both create a new instance of a checklist and complete it, and the simplicity of configuring something new.